If you don't have Harris be the nominee, you're saying, in effect, she wasn't qualified to be vice president. You're saying, in effect, this was some bullshit that was foisted on the country in the interest of some DEI diversity stuff. That's what you'd be, in effect, saying. And the blacks would go ballistic. Kamala Harris not being the nominee exposes the fraudulence of the whole phony equal justice arguments about the genitalia and the skin color of people, not about their ideology, not about their policies, not about their values, not about what in a deep sense they are, but about who they quote unquote represent. From Michael Maloney, Lynn and John, rather than going directly to President Biden's simultaneous withdrawal from the campaign endorsement of Vice President Harris, do you think that it would have been a better decision for the party to have held a consultative vote for new prospective candidates? The August convention would still have determined the ultimate assignment of delegates, but the electorate in each state would have had the opportunity to participate, and the consultative vote process would have offered a measure of democratic legitimacy. Wouldn't this have been a more effective approach for persuading swing voters rather than having the new candidate be decided by the party establishment? My sense is the Democrats did not do such a vote because they needed to present immediate party unity. But I believe they already missed this opportunity by allowing Biden to participate in that debate. So that's an interesting question, John.
Well, it depends on what you call effective, really. I mean, we talked about how they need somebody with enough showbiz to actually have a chance of winning against Trump. Would that have happened if it had been put to the people is an interesting question. Would the people have come up with a candidate that could actually win? It seems to me that what happened is they took a shortcut and, grabbed somebody who is a woman and is two colors and is pleasing to look at, et cetera. And maybe that's what they decided would be more effective under these circumstances. I'm trying to think of who would have come into this position if it had been put to the voters. Would it be Kamala Harris, or would it have been somebody else who would be more likely to lose? I don't know. That's my sense of it.
I think it's simpler. I think they could not do Harris, and Harris would not have won an open contest, and they know it. And they could not do Harris. So it's like, don't get to that point in the game tree where it's Harris against the field, because she's not going to prevail. And if Harris is not the nominee, the party implodes. This is back to this DEI stuff that we were talking about just a minute ago. If you don't have Harris be the nominee, you're saying, in effect, she wasn't qualified to be vice president. You're saying, in effect, this was some bullshit that was foisted on the country in the interest of some DEI diversity stuff. That's what you'd be, in effect, saying. And the blacks would go ballistic. The Joy Reids of the world, your friend Joy Reid, would have a field day. Donna Brazile. Anyway, I could stop. Let me stop. You see what I'm getting at? So they couldn't go there, John. They couldn't go to an open process because they knew Kamala Harris would not prevail in the open contest. And because Kamala Harris not being the nominee exposes the fraudulence of the whole phony equal justice arguments about the genitalia and the skin color of people, not about their ideology, not about their policies, not about their values, not about what in a deep sense they are, but about who they quote unquote represent. Exposing the fraud of that is what would have happened if they had an open process. That's my analysis.
I would go a little bit less complex. I think also, at least according to what one reads here and there, the idea was that if it wasn't going to be Kamala, then, we should stop that. Back with Hillary Clinton, I used to say, why am I calling her Hillary? And now it's Kamala. Harris. We don't say Pete. We say Pete Buttigieg. And yet we say Kamala. And I don't think it's only a black thing. People say Gretchen instead of Gretchen Whitmer. What is that? So
it's
Harris,
about maternal. It's a maternal thing,
Partly, I think. But
yeah, go ahead.
If it wasn't Harris, then the black vote wouldn't be as strong, and that could actually maybe determine the contest. And so because she is who she is, Black women in particular often find her inspiring. You can see that already with the sororities, etc. That would be less the case if Gretchen, for example, ran, or any number of other people. Gavin Newsom would not excite the Black vote in the way that Kamala Harris does. So, even that right there.
Okay, so I have a question, John. Is she Black?
Yes, I say through these 2024 eyes of mine, because one, Black trumps everything else. If a person is half white and half Black, we think that they're Black. That's the way I've been trained to think. And more to the point, she's culturally Black. And so she grew up around a lot of Black kids. She had Black friends. She went to Howard. She was in a Black sorority. I can say this as a linguist, if you listen to her on the phone, most Americans after a few sentences would be able to tell that she's Black. She has a bit of a Black scent. There's her relationship to dancing, all of that. So she's culturally Black. I don't see her as culturally South Asian in any significant way, except for some food that she can make. So yes, but I think that a lot of people from other countries and people from other times and places would think that we're crazy to look at her and say that a Nigerian and Jay-Z and her are the same thing. We'll get past it in another couple generations, but I'm stuck in it, I must admit. But culturally more than about her skin, I would say. Is she?
I wonder. Yeah, I was going to wonder whether we're not going to inherit a world where Blackness fractures, and it doesn't become just one thing. It gets the African immigrant descendant is different from the descendant of slaves, who is different from the Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, who are neither.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of whom are descendants of slaves, I should have said. Although I suppose that her father being
Jamaican,
a light-skinned Jamaican, he had African ancestry. He had other ancestry as well, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Would tie her in some sense. But God, that seems a lot of effort to go to put somebody into a box.
If Kamala Harris had grown up in an all-white suburb somewhere in Michigan or Minnesota, and were culturally a different kind of person, and she went to Rice or Vanderbilt or something, and didn't happen to have that many Black friends, the idea that we're supposed to call her Black now would be more transparently ridiculous. But there are gradations based on what your life experience, and I hate to say this, but identification is. So, Obama and her are both interesting in that way. They kind of chose it. And, well, Obama chose it.
Oh, that was the word I was thinking of, John, choice. I was thinking in how interesting it is that you can choose. I mean, and what all that goes into, because in one way, we want to honor the choice. If she wants to be Black, we want to let her be Black. We don't want to let Rachel Dolezal be Black, but because she's white. Likewise, Obama could have been a lot whiter than he turned out to be.
Yeah. He could have
had
not
a very
talked.
different kind of identity.
He could have not talked that way. He could have married a Filipino woman. It could have been a very different Barack Obama. Yeah.
But this opens up an interesting window, it seems to me, because Black is cool. There's a certain, hipness. There's a certain,
it's sexy.
Something that's attractive. Yeah, that's sexy. That's on the cutting edge of the human experience, that you want to be a part of the party, and so we draw unto ourselves people like Barack Hussein Obama or Kamala Harris.
Or Rachel Dolezal.
Or indeed. Why can't we draw a white Black person? That's where I'm trying to, if kind of half Black people can be Black, how come white people can't be half Black?
It's a tough one. It is a tough question. But
let's take another question.
It's already, it's late 20th century, basically. One proof that racism is nothing like it used to be, that it is not everywhere and lurking behind every corner, just more subtle, is that there are people who choose it. And that doesn't mean that there aren't downsides. But if part of the reason you're quote unquote Black is because you just like Blackness culturally, and you're comfortable joining it, that's a choice that many fewer people would have made in 1937. It was a different time, or even in 1967, I suspect. When it's gotten to the point that it's the coolest of the identities, you know that something has happened. And whenever a Rachel Dolezal pops up, I think this is how far we've come. There have been a bunch of hers. The one that was especially memorable was what's she called? Jessica Krug was this white Jewish girl from the Midwest, I think from St. Louis, I think, who walked around fashioning herself as some kind of Blacktino person, claiming that somewhere at immigration they had changed the name Cruz to Krug, and that's why that's her last name rather than that she's Jewish. And she was an academic, and she got outed and has never been heard from since. But it was clear that she just thought being a Bronx Blacktina was cool. Well, if a Jessica Krug exists, we are long past having to say we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. We have a shorter way to go at this point.